Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at what happens when you confront a thief. When people think of thieves, they usually imagine someone who is sneaky, quiet, and quick. But the truth is that some thieves are actually quite brazen. They will steal whatever they want, whenever they want, without any fear of being caught. This can make it very difficult for their victims, who often feel helpless and angry. It can be hard to know what to do when you catch someone stealing, because you do want to put yourself in danger. Most people would just let them get away with it. But not everyone is willing to accept the loss. Some people take matters into their own hands and confront the thief. And while this is often seen as the right thing to do, the truth is that it can sometimes have very bad consequences. That's why today we're going to be exploring the story of a 29-year-old man who decided to confront a thief who had stolen his bike. So stick around until the end of the video to hear his story. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you never miss an upload. It was a sunny afternoon in Austin, Texas, when the victim parked his bike outside a popular coffee shop. He had locked it up securely, but when he came out after getting his drink, he saw that it had been stolen. The thief had cut through the lock with bolt cutters and made off with the bike. The victim was furious and immediately called the police, but he knew that they might not be able to recover his bike, so he decided to take matters into his own hands. He got on his other bike and started searching for the thief. He wasn't sure where to look, but he figured that the thief must have gone somewhere secluded where they could pawn the bike without being seen. He searched for hours but came up empty-handed. Just when he was about to give up, he spotted something in an abandoned warehouse district. It looked like his bike. He cautiously approached it and saw that it was indeed his bike. He couldn't believe his luck. He had found it. But then he heard voices coming from inside the building. He knew that there were probably people inside and he didn't want to startle them, so he decided to wait until nightfall to retrieve his bike. As soon as it was dark, he slipped inside the building and untied his bike. He was just about to make his escape when he was spotted by one of the thieves. The thief was furious and ran towards him. The victim knew that he had to act fast. He hopped on his bike and raced out of the building. The thief gave chase, but the victim was too quick for him. He lost him in the maze of streets. Once he was sure that he was safe, he called the police and reported the theft. He also told them about the warehouse district, but by the time they got there, the bike was long gone. The victim was upset, but at least he had his bike back. He knew that the thief would probably try to steal it again, so he decided to take extra precautions. He bought a GPS tracker and attached it to his bike frame. He also installed security cameras around his house and set up motion-activated lights. He was determined to catch the thief in the act. One day the thief struck again. He stole the bike from the victim's house, but this time he had left the GPS tracker behind. The victim immediately called the police and they were able to track down the bike. They arrested the thief and recovered the bike. The victim was relieved, but he knew that it could have ended badly for him. He had put himself in danger by confronting the thief, but he was glad that he had stood his ground. We don't often hear stories like this one, because most people choose to let thieves get away with their stuff. After all, it's not worth risking your life over material possessions, right? But this guy was not willing to be a victim. He took matters into his own hands and confronted the thief. And while this is often seen as the right thing to do, the truth is that it can sometimes have very bad consequences. This guy put himself in danger and he could have easily been hurt or even killed. But thankfully that didn't happen. He was able to get his bike back and the thief was caught. So what should you do if you ever find yourself in this situation? If you're not willing to put your safety at risk, then the best thing to do is probably to let the thief go. It's not worth risking your life over material possessions. But if you do decide to confront a thief, then you need to be prepared for the consequences. They may become violent or they may run away and you may never see them again. In this particular case, the victim was lucky. He was able to retrieve his bike and the thief was caught, but this isn't always the case. So before you decide to confront a thief, weigh the risks and benefits carefully. It's usually not worth it. Now let's take a look at some other Reddit confessions about what happens when you confront a thief. The first story is titled "Caught him Red-Handed." I used to work in retail, and one day this dude came up to my till and tried to pay with a check. The problem was that the check was for a much higher amount than what he was buying. I asked him if he wanted me to check the ID, and he said no and tried to walk out. I called him back saying that I needed to check the ID, and he threw the receipt on the counter and left. My manager came and asked what happened and I explained everything to him. My manager went out front and saw the guy getting into a car. My manager walked back in without saying anything. He grabbed the phone and called the cops. While we were waiting for the cops, my manager looked at the check and said, "Well, that's no good." He then called the bank and confirmed that the check was stolen. The cops showed up and took the information and my manager paid me back the money that the guy stole. That was the last time I ever saw that guy. The next story is titled "My Friend Walked In on a Burglary." My friend was hanging out at my house while I was showing him my new gaming setup. We were sitting in the living room talking when we both heard a loud crash from the kitchen. I thought that it was weird because I live alone and no one was supposed to be there. We both slowly made our way to the kitchen to investigate. As we peeked around the corner, we saw a guy rummaging through my fridge. My friend and I screamed and the guy jumped on the counter. He tried to run out the front door, but my friend blocked him. The guy then jumped off the counter and ran out the back door. My friend and I called the cops, but the guy was gone. I'm pretty sure that he dropped the TV he had stolen when he jumped over the fence. The next story is titled, I Let Him Go. I was working at a gas station and this guy comes in and starts asking for things from behind the counter. At first I thought that he was joking, but he was dead serious. I told him to come around the counter and he said that he didn't want to steal. I told him that if he didn't come around the counter, then I would call the cops. He looked at me and said, whatever, and walked out without paying for the items. I didn't call the cops because I didn't want to get him in trouble. I know that he was having a rough time, so I let him go. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to check out more content like this. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you never miss an upload.